Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you're all doing well. It's 11:45 in the AM here in the UK, and it's a nice day, a really nice day. A little bit cool, but it's nice. All right, we're back with the Karen Reid case today to review day 9. I'm going to focus on the last witness of the day, who is still on the stand. He's still being cross-examined. I think there's a way to go yet with this guy. This is Lieutenant Gallagher. He's now retired in August of last year. But at the time of the incident, he was working for the Canton PD, and he was the highest ranking officer there at the scene. And what a absolute it's outstanding crime scene investigation. I can't get over it. I couldn't get over it last year, and listening to it again this year, it's still outstanding. It's stunning in its ineptitude. Stunning. Unbelievable. So we've got a leaf blower. We've got the red solo cops. We've got the stop and shop bag, which is as good as an evidence bag, apparently, like a grocery bag. My shopping's just been delivered in paper bags. I've had to save them in case of crime. And then I can collect the evidence and put them in the Amazon bags. Come on now. And he thinks he did great work. This is the thing, that he can sit there thinking it was great, that it was terrific, that the solo cups was a great idea because they hold liquid terrifically, he said. So I'm going to play a part of the direct examination with Hank Brennan asking the very easy questions. Didn't ask him anything difficult. But not so Alan Jackson. And Alan Jackson is really laying into this guy. It's shocking. I'm shocked that Judge Bev, I mean, to be fair to her, she does give careful consideration to experts. You know, if there's an objection from the opposite party about a particular expert, she has, in the pre-trial hearings, she has generally been quite good about, you know, letting experts testify, even if they're for the defense, even if you can tell in the way she's saying things that she's kind of biased, but she's been allowing these experts. But one expert she has not allowed the defense to call is anyone who can counter this absolutely outrageous investigation, the crime scene investigation. She's disallowed. Like the defense wanted to bring to the stand to really make it clear to the jury how an investigation should have been done. You know, at the scene, collecting blood samples, documenting evidence, the chain of custody, that kind of thing. And she disallowed it. And she said that, well, you know, you've got the state's experts and you've got the ability to cross-examine them. But you've got to remember that cross-examination is not the same as having a witness that you're directly examining. It's not the same. Because there's only so far you can go with cross-examination, and it certainly doesn't give the jury any indication of how that crime scene should have been processed. Because the attorneys might know how it should have been processed, but they're the attorneys. They're not allowed to give evidence. It's not like they can come along and say this, and this, and tell the jury how it should have been done. So I think that's outrageous because, you know, if you know anything about crime scene investigation, you don't need to be an expert. You need to have watched maybe a few episodes of CSI or something. You know, you need some basic knowledge to know that this was bad. This was really bad. But not all jurors are going to have even that basic knowledge. So I find that really bad. I find that really, really bad that the defense can't counter this with their own expert. And this morning, while I've been waiting for my grocery, and I do apologise, I did change the time. I set it originally for 11:30 a.m. and then I changed it on YouTube to noon, just in case the shopping was going to be late, and it didn't change on StreamYard. So I don't know what time it actually was scheduled for, this thing. But anyway, while I was waiting for my grocery to be delivered, I was watching Duty Ron and Ed Wallace. And Ed Wallace is a crime scene expert, written books. He's worked for the NYPD, done a lot of work, crime scene investigator, and a lot of knowledge. I do respect Ed Wallace. Very much, very much. And he was almost having I was concerned about him at one point. He was about to blow a gasket as him and Ron were going through this testimony. If you've got a couple of hours to spare, well worth your time watching, because Ed Wallace went through in detail how this should have been done. And I knew this, but somebody like Ed Wallace being called to the stand, like a crime scene expert, being called to the stand to just tell the jury how it should have been done. That's the kind of thing that the jury needs. Or else they may not know. They may think, oh, well, they tried the best, and they may not listen if they've already got it in their heads that Karen's guilty, and they think, well, they've tried the best, and, you know, the cops did what they thought was best for that scene at the time, and they might not know just how damaging what was done at the scene was to the investigation. So, please go and watch it. So it's on Duty Ron's channel. It's I'll get the link for you. I'll put it in the description box actually after the show. Where is it? There we go. Duty Ron. All right. Here we go. So there's a good 2 hours of content there for you to dig into. All right. So there were some other witnesses before Gallagher. Ryan Nagel, who was the guy who saw Karen outside of 34 Fairview. He was going to pick up Julie Nagel, and we know what time he arrived. We know exactly what time he arrived because of a text message. I hope they call Julie Nagel because she's the one who who received the text. So I don't know why they didn't mention the text message, because the text message that Ryan Nagel sent was sent at 12:23. So I don't know why that wasn't brought up under cross-examination. I'm wondering whether they're waiting for Julie Nagel to bring that into the testimony. There was also Heather, what's her name? Heather Maxim, who was Ryan Nagel's girlfriend at the time. So she was in the vehicle and also saw Karen. Neither of them saw John. Neither of them saw John in the car. They didn't see John by the side of the car. They didn't see John go into the house. So where was John at 12:23? And he said he was there for 5 minutes or less. So where was John? Certainly wasn't on the lawn, dead or dying. So it's a big question mark as to where John actually was, because none of them saw him. We know he was there, but none of them saw him. Who else was? Sarah Levinson, who was in the house. I think she's more objective than anybody else who was in that house that night. McLaughlin, I think her name's Katie McLaughlin. She was one of the EMTs. She's a friend of Caitlin Albert. So she's the EMT link. She's the one that links the Alberts to the EMTs. She's inadvertently impeached Nuttall, the first EMT, to speak at the case. Nuttall said he heard Karen saying, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And McLaughlin impeached him inadvertently because she said Nuttall was in the ambulance treating John when Karen came up to her, McLaughlin, and said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. So how did Nuttall hear it? So there you go. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into this. Sorry, I haven't said any hellos, but I'm going to get straight into this now. I'm going to play this all. It's 35 minutes, so we're going to go over the usual hour that I spend on these recaps, but I think it's important. It's not all of the direct testimony, but it's the important bit. It's the important bit. Yeah, Dumb, Dumber and Dumbest ought to be the title of the movie documentary that will be made about the investigation. Exactly. 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 All right, let's go. And I am going to play, when I do these things, when I play testimony, I don't normally play right from the beginning, you know, like the training and experience and stuff like that. But in this instance, I think it's important. I think it's important to realise that this guy actually worked in law enforcement for over 30 years. And he still did not understand the absolute basics of crime scene investigation. Dear God. Like, Canton PD need a complete overhaul. I'm not saying fire all the officers, but they all need completely retraining. All of them. All right, let's go.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, sir. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Paul Gallagher.
For the court reporter, would you mind spelling your last name?
Gallagher.
Mr. Gallagher, do you presently work?
As a police officer, I'm retired.
When did you retire?
August 31st, 2024.
When you retired, what department were you working for?
Canton Police Department.
How many years had you worked for the Canton Police Department upon your retirement?
I was credited with 32 years, 8 months of service.
Did you have a particular rank when you
32 years and 8 months. And still, the basics elude him.
retired?
Yes, I was a lieutenant.
I want to go back to the beginning of your law enforcement career and share your background with the jury. When did you begin your career in law enforcement?
I became a permanent intermittent police officer in Canton in 1992. What a permanent intermittent police officer is, it's basically a part-time police officer. You're required to attend a 16-week part-time academy. Your duties include regular patrol duties that a regular police officer would do, but you're only utilized during special events, short staffing, and you're allowed to work paid traffic details.
Did that
All right, so I think that's equivalent to special constables here in the UK, maybe. The specials. They're not they have some training, but they're not full-time functioning police officers. They have limited roles, and they utilized a lot in things like crowd control, sports games where they need a lot of bodies on scene, things like that. I assume it's similar to that, but that's how he started his career.
status change at some point?
It did in 1994.
1994, were you a patrolman?
Yes, and that required me to attend a full-time 18-week police academy.
In addition to the police academy, did you continue your training over the years?
Yes, I did.
Can you share with the jury some of the training that you would attend over the years?
Oh, sure. So I did constitutional law. I did interview and interrogation, terrorism, international terrorism, domestic violence, buccal swabbing, and
So buccal swabbing is swabbing the inside of the cheek, so swabbing the mouth for things like DNA. So he knows how to do that. Great.
DEA basic narcotics course, and last duties were I did background checks, so I attended background training, and I did internal affairs.
Before I talk a little bit more,
So note that, because there's absolutely no training that he's had. So he's done 18 weeks of police academy, which would have been the basic stuff. And then he's done various training events, over his career, but absolutely zero in crime scene investigation. Zero. So even though he was the highest ranking officer at that scene that morning, he had absolutely no training in crime scene investigation. So he should have recognized his own lack of knowledge and deferred it to someone who had. Now, he says that the state police weren't involved at that time. The state police kind of weren't interested at that time because somebody in the snow could have just tripped and fallen in the snow. They didn't know at that point. So it was literally up to Canton PD, and the severe lack of training that these guys had is very telling in how this investigation played out in those crucial few hours, because they missed everything. They missed everything. And this is what has allowed the conspiracy theories and people like me, who I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm called one because I'm saying Karen Read is innocent. But even if I believed Karen was guilty, which I don't, I would still say this is an awful, awful investigation. How can anybody prove that anybody did anything in this investigation? It's absolutely astonishing. Stunning ineptitude.
Or about your experience over the years and your progress through the Canton Police Department. I'd like you to share with us generally and briefly the structure of the Canton Police Department. The Canton Police Department, how big is it? How many officers are typically employed by Canton at the same time?
We would like to have 45, but unfortunately, we're short-staffed at this time.
No excuse. And no excuse for a scene that should be considered a crime scene. I know they weren't considering it a crime in those first few hours, but they did not know. And there's a man who is dead, who has got the back of his head caved in, with unusual scratches and bite marks on his arm. That looks like a crime to me. So when this Gallagher guy got here, John had already gone to the hospital, so he didn't actually see John. However, there seemed to be a severe lack of communication as to the state John was in, because all he got wind of was that there was a medical emergency. A guy was found in the snow and there'd been some kind of medical emergency. I suppose he assumed that because John was sent to the hospital. And they were still doing life-saving treatment on him because they had to warm him up first before they could declare him dead. So I think there was a miscommunication or a lack of communication between Gallagher and the people who took John to the hospital. He should have been informed as the highest ranking officer, the exact state that John was in, because it would be clear to anybody that he got the back of his head caved in, like severe skull fractures to the back of his head. So how is that not potentially a crime? But yet they weren't treating it as a crime, yet he was analysing the scene. So who knows?
At the Canton Police Department, is there different ranks?
There is.
And what are they?
They are patrol, sergeant, detective sergeant, lieutenant, deputy chief, and chief.
Given the size of Canton, is it a small department or a typically large department for that size?
I would say it's a medium-sized department.
Is Canton, do you receive traffic from other areas nearby?
We do.
Is Boston part of the crossroads in Canton at times?
It is. Route 138 runs from Boston, and it goes all the way down to the South Shore through Brockton, Taunton, et cetera.
Other cities or towns nearby that bring traffic through Canton as far as law enforcement is concerned?
They do, and other states. 95 runs through Canton as well and brings up traffic from Rhode Island.
For a relatively small town, is Canton a busy police department given all the crossroads and intersections?
It can be very busy at times.
You mentioned in Canton that there are different ranks. You started as a patrol officer.
Yes.
Did that change at some point?
It did.
When?
July of 2001, I became a detective.
Did you have any particular or special training to become a detective?
I started attending how to dust for fingerprints. My focus was narcotics. I had several narcotics classes.
Did you engage in those type of investigations?
So, he learned how to dust for fingerprints. Again, though, no crime scene, actual crime scene investigation training at all, even when he became a detective. Now, he was more focused on narcotics, so it wasn't his area. It wasn't his area of expertise at all. No training in it, didn't work in that area. So I kind of feel a little bit sorry for him. However, if you know you're not trained to do the job, you know, he was a lieutenant at the time, you know, you don't have that expertise. You don't start bringing in your own ideas to collect evidence. So absolutely shocking.
On behalf of Canton?
I did.
Did you work with other agencies?
I did in 2005. I started working with the Drug Enforcement Administration in 2006. I was assigned as a task force officer for the DEA, initially out of Worcester Tactical Diversion Squad, which their mission goal was to eradicate OxyContin and oxycodone distribution at that time. It was during our oxycodone phase. In 2008, I was moved to Boston Division. And there we focused on all narcotics, not just oxycodone, heroin, cocaine, etc.
How many years did you spend as a detective before you received your next promotion?
Approximately 15 years.
What happened next in your career as far as progress?
I took the sergeant's exam and I became a sergeant.
In order to become a sergeant, do you have to pass an exam?
An exam and an assessment, yes.
Is that enough to become a sergeant, or is there another process you have to go through?
That's where they rank you after the exam and the assessment.
What year did you say you became a sergeant?
I became a sergeant in 2017.
Was that your first supervisory position?
Not actually. I also worked as an officer in charge, which you're not technically a sergeant, but when there's no sergeant to fill the shift, they'll use experienced officers to work as a sergeant, and you receive sergeant's pay.
How long did you work as a sergeant for at the Canton Police Department?
I worked as a sergeant for 1 year.
Was any officer trained in crime scene investigation? At Canton, probably not, which is why they should have secured the scene and waited. Secured the scene, posted a couple of officers at the scene until they could secure a crime scene team. You know, they should have been back onto the state police to say, we suspect a crime. This is why we suspect a crime. Please send your crime scene people.
2018, and I was promoted to detective sergeant.
As a sergeant, did your duties change or expand from that of detective?
I was still assigned to the Drug Enforcement Administration at that time.
And you just shared a year later, you were promoted to lieutenant. Did you have to take and pass an exam for that?
That was detective sergeant, and I did not have to pass a test for that.
Did your duties and responsibilities expand when you became lieutenant?
Yes, I was brought out of the DEA to work in Canton specifically.
Were there other lieutenants on the Canton Police Department when you worked as a lieutenant?
I became a lieutenant in 2021. At the time, there was 3 other lieutenants.
Were there any other officers above lieutenant at that point?
There was a deputy chief and a chief.
So apart from the deputy chief and the chief, he is the highest rank in Canton PD. Unbelievable. Again, the 32 years, or what would it have been in 2022? 20 years, 30 years, 30 years of experience should have told him that when he got to that scene, he did not have the relevant training and experience to process a crime scene in the snow where someone has been found lifeless with their head caved in. He should have had the knowledge to know that he was not equipped for this job. And I hope the jury don't just say, oh, well, he's got loads of experience. Oh, we did loads of good work. Oh, we worked for drugs and all of this. I hope they don't take that as relevant experience, because none of that is relevant experience to this role that he was playing in the early morning of January 29th, 2022.
In 2022, January, were you a lieutenant?
I was.
Your duties and responsibilities, do they include actually going to scenes, or was it purely supervisory?
That's right, August 2024. So he was credited when he retired with 32 years and 8 months. So January 2022, he would have had 30 years, around about 30 years of experience.
It was supervisory, but we were expected to respond to scenes.
What do you mean by that?
Our chief expected a supervisor on scene at all times, at all scenes.
Even if there was a ranking supervisor like a sergeant, were you still, as a lieutenant, expected to go to scenes?
Oh, yes.
Did you do that often?
Yes.
I want you to take us to January 29th, 2022. Were you working the overnight shift from January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022?
I was the outgoing lieutenant. I did not work into the 29th. I was the last lieutenant to work on the 28th.
In the early morning hours, around 6 a.m., were you on shift or off shift?
I was off shift.
Were you planning on working that morning?
I was planning on working later that day, yes.
Do you remember what the weather was like that early morning?
Yes, there was a nor'easter, which was snow, wind.
Did anything interrupt your plan of working later that day?
Yes.
Tell us what happened.
Shortly after 6 a.m., I received a call from Sergeant Sean Good of the Canton Police Department.
After you received the call from Sergeant Sean Good, were you informed about a situation?
So Sean Good was on the scene when the EMTs were there and people. So Sean Good was a sergeant. So he would have been the highest ranking officer there as a sergeant. So he calls Gallagher as the lieutenant, as someone higher up, to attend.
Situation.
I was.
Were you told any basic details of where and what?
Yes.
Without sharing the actual conversation, where was this situation taking place?
I misunderstood the situation. I thought it was on Meadows Ave in Canton. I later found out through dispatch that it was actually Fairview Road.
So just that alone tells me that the communication between Sergeant Good and Lieutenant Gallagher was inept, inaccurate. How did he, in one conversation with Sergeant Good, get that the scene was at 1 Meadows Ave, which is John O'Keefe's actual address? Now, maybe Sergeant Good mentioned 1 Meadows Ave, maybe said, it's a Boston cop here lying lifeless, we've taken him to the hospital. He lives at 1 Meadows Ave. But Gallagher has not listened to 34 Fairview Road. So this miscommunication is very telling. The miscommunication, the misunderstanding, however that played out, and made Gallagher believe that it was at 1 Meadows Ave, which is where he went originally. Well, also, if you've got the address wrong, then maybe you've got some details about what the victim looked like and the injuries the victim have. Maybe you've got that wrong as well. It doesn't bode well for a good investigator, does it, if he doesn't even get the address right?
When you heard that there was a situation in Canton, did you decide to change your plans about when you would come in?
Yes, I responded.
Why did you respond?
That's the expectation our chief had for us.
When you go into work, do you use a police cruiser or do you use your personal vehicle?
On this particular day, I used a personal vehicle because of the weather.
Was that different than typical?
Yes.
And why would you use a personal vehicle instead of a police cruiser?
It was larger. It was 4-wheel drive. It was the only way I probably would have got there to the scene.
All right, so I don't have a problem with him using his personal vehicle under those circumstances. I don't have a problem with that.
You received a call about a situation. Tell us what you did.
I loaded up the car with a tent, and I drove to the Canton Police Department, and I got some winter gear from the office, and I got on the radio and advised Sergeant Sean Good, who was at the scene on Fairview, that all officers were held to further notice.
What does that mean?
They weren't going to be going home at their end of the shift until they were relieved by another supervisor.
Why did you take a tent with you?
Because of the snow, the way the call was described to me was a person possibly not breathing. And if it was an unattended death, I wanted to be able to cover the person.
Why?
Respect.
That tent was
Okay. Oh, well.
a tent from your home, a personal tent?
It was an 8x8 pop-up tent.
All right. So a personal tent that he's probably gone camping in, he takes from his home to lay over the victim out of respect. What? Okay. Takes his own camping tent. But before he goes to the scene, he goes to Canton PD. So do Canton PD not have crime scene tent? Do they not have one? They don't have a crime scene tent. Okay. Why did he not collect, while he was there, why did he not collect the relevant receptacles to put evidence in? And this is what I'm talking about with a clear lack of communication. Because Sean Good, Sergeant Good, should have explained during this, communication, this check-in that he had, this conversation he had with Gallagher, that we've got this Boston cop, we've got this man who's been found lifeless in the snow with severe head injury and strange marks and bites on his arm. Right, black eyes, looks battered. Right, his face looks battered, and is lifeless, not breathing. So any sensible, self-respecting police officer would think that could be a crime. So it makes me feel that Gallagher wasn't given the details of John O'Keefe's injuries. That he misunderstood the address, but he also misunderstood the nature of the scene that he was going to attend. Even so, that scene, until it's absolutely clear that it's not a crime, should have been treated like one. So while he was at the Canton PD, instead of using his own personal tent, he could have got a crime scene tent, and then all the relevant receptacles necessary, like evidence bags, receptacles to put swabs in, the swabs themselves, those things he could have collected from Canton PD on his way. He did not. What he did was pick up winter gear for himself. Okay, cool, fine. You need your winter gear. Get your winter gear. But more important than your comfort should have been the things that you need to do a preliminary investigation of a crime scene, which includes evidence bags, receptacles to put swab things in, swabs, gloves, those things. Good God.
You went to the Canton Police Department first before you went to the scene.
I did.
Why did you go to the Canton Police Department first?
I had some winter gear there, including a reflective jacket that I thought would be helpful, given it was dark out. Visibility was very bad.
When you got to the Canton Police Department, did you
Great, but no crime scene things, no.
learn anything from any of your colleagues while at the police department?
The only one colleague at the police department at that time was Officer Kelly Dever.
After you got your gear at the Canton Police Department, did you head towards Fairview?
I did.
Other than the general description that you had heard, did you know anything about what was going on there?
Just that a gentleman was found unconscious in the snow, possibly not breathing.
You mentioned the term unintended death. What does that mean?
An unattended death is a death where someone dies alone, and you don't know the reason. It doesn't mean there's foul play. In fact, 99% of the time, it's natural causes.
Is there
Even so, until you've ascertained, somebody with a serious head injury at a scene, that doesn't sound like someone who's keeled over and had a heart attack or has fallen over a curb and can't get up and has died of hypothermia. A severe head injury to the back of their head should be a massive red flag to anybody. Yeah, it's possible that somebody could have fallen in the snow and cracked their head on something and died. Yes, absolutely. But until that is established, you treat that as a crime scene.
Process for the Canton Police Department when they learn of any death, unintended or not? Is there a process you need to follow?
Yes, there is.
And what is that process?
That's to call the Norfolk County DA's office, their CPAC unit, Crime Prevention and Control. They have jurisdictions over deaths and unattended deaths.
You mentioned a CPAC unit. What type of officers or law enforcement is the CPAC unit?
It's manned by the Massachusetts State Police.
Are you required by statute to contact CPAC or the Massachusetts State Police, even if it's an unintended death?
Yes.
Did you follow that process?
Sergeant Lank followed that process.
Is that one of the officers who worked under you?
Yes, that is correct.
Did you know if Sergeant Lank was at the scene when you were leaving Canton, or did you learn at some point when you got there whether Sergeant Lank was at Fairview?
When I got there, I saw the black Toyota Tundra, which is operated by our detectives there, and then I saw him.
So Sergeant Lank was also there. So we got Sergeant Good and Sergeant Lank that are both there at the scene, both able to communicate to Lieutenant Gallagher the details. But yet, no. Okay.
Canton Police Department first contacted the Massachusetts State Police with the CPAC unit about the information. Do you have an understanding whether or not the Massachusetts State Police were going to respond or not?
They were not responding.
So when you got to Fairview Road, were there any other law enforcement officers?
So the crime people at the Massachusetts State Police decided they weren't going to respond because, oh, it's bad weather and, oh, this is just someone who's fallen in the snow. Even so, even if they said no, they weren't going to attend originally, and Canton PD, you're on your own with your lack of training, you're all on your own, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. He, as the lieutenant, should have insisted that they get the crime scene people out. As soon as he got to that scene and got a full detail of John O'Keefe's injuries and looked at the scene himself, he should have been back on the phone to the Massachusetts State Police and said, I don't care it's bad weather, we need crime scene investigators here. Canton PD does not have the capacity for this. We need your crime scene people here now. And they should have secured the scene until they turned up. That scene isn't going anywhere. That evidence isn't going anywhere. All they needed to do was leave a couple of officers there to make sure no one walks over it or messes with it. That's it. And they wait. If they have to wait an hour, if they have to wait 2 hours, it doesn't matter. That scene is not going anywhere. That scene is frozen anyway. It's not going anywhere. Dear God.
There's other than Canton police officers?
No, there was not.
When you appeared at Fairview Road or arrived, were you the superior officer on the scene?
I was highest ranking officer.
As you're pulling up to Fairview that morning, what's the first thing you see when you get there?
As I pull up, I see the last of the fire apparatus pulling away. I get out of the vehicle. The first one I encountered was Sergeant Sean Good, who was the shift supervisor.
Did you see any other of your officers there?
I did. I saw Lieutenant Lank further down, and further down I saw 2 other cruisers, which ended up being Officer Mulaney and Officer Saraf.
Did any of the cruisers or vehicles have lights on?
They did.
Did you hear any sirens?
No, there wouldn't be any sirens.
Why wouldn't there be?
Sirens are used to move traffic. There was no traffic. It was a blizzard. There were no cars on the road. You might see an occasional plow.
Did you ever learn the general area where the person was found?
Yes.
At that time, did you know who the person was?
I did. I knew him by name, yes.
Did someone inform you of who the person was?
Sergeant Sean Good did, yes.
Okay. And who was the person that you learned was on the ground?
John O'Keefe.
Had you known John O'Keefe?
I knew of John O'Keefe. I had never met John O'Keefe.
When you first arrived at Fairview, was Mr. O'Keefe still on the ground?
He was not.
Was he at the scene?
He was not.
So when you got to the scene at Fairview, Mr. O'Keefe was already gone?
Yes, he had been transported to the hospital.
But what there should have been is photographs. There should have been photographs of John O'Keefe on the ground. There should have been, when John O'Keefe was removed, there should have been crime scene tape or whatever they could use to denote where his body had been laying. But no, they didn't do that.
So did you ever firsthand see exactly where Mr. O'Keefe was lying when he was found?
I did not.
Did anybody?
So he turns up as the highest ranking officer and doesn't even know exactly where John O'Keefe was lying, what position he was in when he was found, because obviously they'd have had to move him around to do CPR, but what position he was in when the first responding officer arrived, it should have been photographed. All of it should have been photographed. They should have had something to show the highest ranking officer about exactly where John O'Keefe was lying. Because if he comes along trying to analyse this crime scene and he doesn't know where the victim was found, well, how are you meant to analyse anything? Unbelievable.
Anybody point out to you the general area?
Yes.
Did you have a chance at that point to, well, obviously you didn't have a chance to examine or look at Mr. O'Keefe. Did you have a chance to look in the general area where you were told he was found?
I did.
Tell us a little bit more about the weather now that you're standing outside Fairview Road. What's the visibility like? What's the temperature like? What are the conditions like?
So it was terrible. It was blizzard-like. The wind would blow in your face. It would change directions. The snow was an icy snow. In the wind, you had to actually talk loud to be heard. Somebody right next to you, and
it certainly did on the videos that they showed. You know, where the EMTs were working. Those videos that they show. It did look like it was snowing. It did look like it was windy. The leaf blower video, though, that they're going to play in a few minutes, it looks like the snow stopped, honestly. So, I don't know.
it was your typical New England blizzard, basically.
At this point, did you have any position?
Oh, I know this is Mr. Leaf Blower. Oh, we're getting onto it. Don't you worry. It's coming up.
As you assessed the area, whether this was a criminal investigation?
When we had no crime at that time.
When you were there,
You had no crime at that time, even though you had a man with his back of his head caved in, but you're not even suspecting that there might have been a crime. Okay.
were you looking for anything?
Yes, I was examining the scene.
Okay. At that point, did you have any reason?
Why even examine the scene? If you don't think it's a crime, why even examine the scene? Like, if it's a medical emergency, a guy's had a heart attack or had a stroke or whatever, why are you even examining it? You're examining it for evidence of a crime. Therefore, you treat this as a crime scene, you clown.
To start a criminal investigation?
Not at that time, no.
Dear
When
God.
you learned
Dear
that Mr.
God.
O'Keefe was found outside, did you go look at the particular area?
Yes.
Can you describe the area that was shown to you where Mr. O'Keefe was found?
Sure. It was on the left side of the property of 34 Fairview. You could see where first responders and witnesses and police officers had walked up to the area. It was by a flat.
All right, so loads of footprints in the snow. Even more reason why the first responding officers should have got photographs of the victim, the positioning, the area. All of those things should have been done right at the beginning when the first responders turned up, so that they could denote what disturbance had taken place during the life-saving measures, this part of the investigation. When the next round of officers comes, they should have the evidence as it was right at the beginning of the situation. But no, none of that. No, not even that.
Flagpole on the property line of number 32 Fairview.
What was the lighting condition at that point in that area?
It was dark. It was sun was coming up, but due to the weather and the cloud cover and the snow, its visibility still was not great.
Were the law enforcement vehicles providing any light for the area?
No.
How about the house? Was there any bright lights coming out of the house illuminating that area?
I didn't see any lights, window lights on. There may have been an exterior, the door light at one or two houses.
In addition to the law enforcement officers that were there, did you see any civilians when you got there?
Yeah, photos of tire tracks. Now, look, it was snowing. It was actively snowing. You could see it when the EMTs were there, when the first responders were there. the videos we've seen, it was actively snowing. So, you know, any tyre tracks that happened hours previous would have been covered up anyway by that new layer of snow. Footprints that might have happened in the night when John O'Keefe's body was positioned where it was, they would have also have been covered up. So when they say, oh, there was no footprints coming from 34 Fairview, well, no, there wasn't, because at the beginning, when John O'Keefe left Karen Reid's car, there was only a light dusting of snow. We learned yesterday from Ryan Nagel and Heather Maxim that you could still see the grass. Like the snow had only just started to settle, so you could still see the grass. So in the 5.5 hours from that, then, you know, a couple of inches of snow, probably more, had fallen. So it was active snowfall. So any tire tracks that might have been left or footprints that might have been left earlier on would have been covered up, and, you know, that evidence is gone. However, what you want is that entire scene photographed as well as you can right from the outset. And that doesn't take away any life-saving measures that might be happening to John O'Keefe, because you can still photograph his position, you can still photograph his location in relation to other landmarks, and you can photograph the general area. That's what needed to have been done.
No, there were no civilians there.
While you were outside looking at the area, did any civilians ever come out?
No, not at all.
Any civilians ever come out of 34 Fairview?
No.
How about next door, 32 Fairview? Did you ever see any civilians come out of that address?
Nobody ever came out of the house.
Across the street, is there homes across the street from 34 Fairview?
There is.
Did you see anybody come out of either one of those houses?
Did not see anybody come out of those houses.
When you were outside and you were shown the area where you were told Mr. O'Keefe was found, did you try to do anything regarding that area to identify the area itself?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
Yes. The area where you were told Mr. O'Keefe was found, did you try to do anything around that area to identify the area?
Well, it was marked out with crime scene tape at that time. And what I saw was pink blood, and it was in a circular.
Oh, so somebody had bothered to mark the scene with crime scene tape. So you don't mark a scene with crime scene tape unless you suspect a crime. So why was this crime scene not analysed properly? Don't say, oh, we didn't suspect a crime, because somebody had the bright idea of marking off the scene with crime scene tape, which is the right thing to do, obviously. But yet he comes along and says, oh, we had no evidence of a crime. We weren't considering it a crime at the time. Okay, which is it then?
Patent.
Oh, God.
Was the crime scene tape holding up at all?
No, it was not. It was blowing wildly in the wind. And at one point, it was actually blowing in. It was triangular, and it was actually blowing into the crime scene.
Was the tape helping at all?
Oh, it was blowing into the crime scene. So you admit it was a crime scene. Cool.
No, it was not.
Was there any use of putting a tent up at that point?
No, there wasn't, not due to the high winds.
Did you learn whether any of the officers had, at any point before you got there, gone into Fairview Road?
Yes.
Who did you learn went into Fairview Road?
Both Sergeant Good and Detective Sergeant Lake went into Fairview Road.
Did you know how long they were inside for?
Oh, no, did you know that?
I did not.
At that point, did you go and speak to anybody in any of the nearby homes?
I did not.
When you were at this scene and you saw what was happening in the weather, did you make a decision to do anything?
Yes.
What did you decide you were going to do?
Since the state police were not responding, I decided to process the area where Mr. O'Keefe was found and try to find out why he had the medical episode he was having.
So he assumes it's a medical episode, and he takes it upon himself to do his own investigation. All right. Oh, dear God. All right. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? Are you ready?
If you understood this to be a medical episode, and at that point you didn't have any information it was a crime scene, why were you taking the time and effort to process the scene under these conditions?
Because that's what we do. Even the hospital, there could be a reason that there's obviously a reason he's there. I think we had a duty and obligation to check around where he was found and see if there was any explanation to what caused his medical condition.
Exactly. As a police officer, you're checking it out to see if there's a crime, because it's potentially a crime.
Did you focus on a particular area when you decided to look around?
I did.
What area were you going to look at?
Where it was pointed out he was found and where the blood pattern was.
Were you thinking about looking in any other areas around that?
Not at that time.
Why not?
We didn't have any reason to. We only had the area where he was found.
And at that point, did you have any idea what caused his injuries?
We had none.
At this point, when you were pointed or you're looking at the area where Mr. O'Keefe was found, was the area getting covered up at all?
Yes, it was.
With what?
Snow.
How quickly?
Very quickly. I believe it was forecasted to come down to 1 to 2 inches an hour, if I recall.
Did you have any idea how hard the ground was at that point?
It was frozen.
Did you have any idea?
It was frozen.
I'll allow it.
How deep was the snow covering that frozen ground?
Approximately 4 inches at that time.
4 inches. 4 inches of snow had fallen. 4 inches of snow had fallen over the night time. So at 12:30, when Ryan Nagel and Hannah Maxim were outside, you could still see the grass. You could still see the ground. It had just started to fall. So if John O'Keefe had been lying out there, dead, run over by Karen Reid, he would have been covered with 4 inches of snow. That's what they're expecting us to believe. So do we know how many inches of snow John O'Keefe had been covered with? Was any of that ever considered? How much snow was actually on John O'Keefe? Do we know? Was that any attempt to get that information at all? No? All right.
When you want to look around the area, did you consider using a rake or a shovel?
I did.
And did you?
I did not.
Why didn't you use a shovel at that point?
I was afraid I would miss something or possibly break something.
What could you break with a shovel?
Anything, glass or anything of that nature.
Why would you be expecting glass? If someone's had a medical emergency, why would you be expecting glass? Oh, you're thinking in retrospect because you found a glass. Okay, so you found a glass. All right. And if you'd used a shovel, then you could have broken the glass. All right. Okay. Look, if you go barging in with a big shovel and you start just digging into the snow, absolutely, you're going to ruin evidence. But the way that snow is moved from a crime scene is exactly the same as if it was being moved from the ground. That you don't dig like big chunks up. You use a small little trowel type thing and you scrape it. You scrape it, potentially sieving it. Now, if it's just snow, well, like the layers of snow, what could you do to melt the layers of snow? You can use heat lamps. So did anybody even think of melting the snow in the area, in that immediate area, to get down to, you know, the bare bones? No, we didn't think about that, did we? No. So scraping off with a trowel or a small fork, like forensic archaeologists do, that's the way to do it. And if you need the snow to be gone to get down to the earth, then you use a heat lamp. So you're not destroying anything. But you have to make sure that you're taking any evidence on the, you know, the top layers first. And you do that by scraping. Not shoveling, scraping. Oh, dear God. Dear God.
What was your
Dear God.
what was your decision about how you would search that area? What did you want to see?
I wanted to see anything that was possible, whether it was any type of weapon or any type of medical bottle or any reason that he could have come to where he was.
Did you think of a way that
A weapon. So you are thinking crime. You think there's a weapon there? You are thinking crime.
you could look below the top of the snow without unresting the scene?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude?
Because of the blood the pink spots I thought might be blood, I thought a leaf blower would be the best method because I have seen it used and to remove light layers of snow, and it can be controlled.
And after having seen that before,
Where on earth have you seen people using a leaf blower at a crime scene? You might use a leaf blower to get light layers of snow off your driveway or off your steps or whatever, but not off a crime scene. Why? Because it's going to blow the evidence all over the place. So what if there's hairs from the perpetrator? What if there'd been a fight in that area and John O'Keefe had been left to die after a fight? There might be hairs from the perpetrator at the scene. You know, John O'Keefe might have grabbed the person's hair. And there might be hair. There might be small items like fibers from the perpetrator's clothes. So you're just going to use a leaf blower to blow all that away. Okay, all right, let's do that. We're going to see a video in a minute. He was that proud of it. He got someone to video him.
making that decision, what was the benefit of a leaf blower over a shovel?
I wasn't going to miss anything with a leaf blower. Much better control.
And control, tell us what your
Much better control. You can't control how things blow away using a leaf blower. Hairs are going to blow away. Small shards are going to blow away. Fibers are going to blow away. Scraping with a small trowel, you're not going to miss anything. That's how forensic archaeology is done. Dear God.
pension? What was your hope with the leaf blower?
To clear the area, controlled, slowly, so any potential evidence of what happened to Mr. O'Keefe wouldn't be lost.
Did you have a leaf blower with you?
Did not.
So what did you do?
Sergeant Good volunteered to go get the leaf blower.
So Sergeant Good went to his home to get his own personal leaf blower. So instead of sending Sergeant Good to Canton PD to get the relevant crime scene equipment, Canton PD is like a mile away, instead of sending him to go and get, because they've seen some blood and they want to collect the blood, so instead of sending Sergeant Good to Canton PD to get all the relevant stuff that they need, no, he sent Sergeant Good to his personal home to get his personal leaf blower. Jesus Christ.
Get a leaf blower.
Did you remain at the scene?
I did.
And during this time, are you still have no information that it's a crime scene?
We had no information on a crime at that time.
Did Sergeant Good come back with a leaf blower?
He did.
Did you try to get any other items to help you?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
Oh, you do. Oh, you do. Think harder.
When Sergeant Good came back with the leaf blower, did you use it?
I did.
Was it successful?
Very.
Tell us what you did.
He's proud. He was very successful in blowing evidence away.
I started with low speed and began whisking away the snow. And then I saw how it was uncovering those pink spots were becoming brighter red. So I verified it was frozen or coagulated blood at that time.
How did you know? How did you know that it was coagulated blood? How did you know it was blood? You don't say that you found blood at a scene until it's actually been tested. Was it tested? Did you do a presumptive test for blood right there? Did you? Did you document before you started to move any of this blood? Did you document exactly where the blood was? Did you have a chart where you put all the marks on, what direction the blood looked like it had been traveling in, the shape of the blood? Did you? Because looking at the shape of the blood, you can tell the direction that blood spatter likely would have traveled in. So you would have got an indication. I mean, it's not perfect, but you've got an indication of when that blood was actually spilt. Was that blood spilt while John O'Keefe was in the air, like in a fight? You know, if you're being punched and if they bust your nose and blood spurts out, well, you get blood spatter. They can tell whether you were, off the ground when that blood was spilled, or was the blood a pool, like would happen if you were lying on the ground and you got an injury. None of that. No. Okay. None of that.
And so
Nothing. No charts, no diagrams, no not even any crime scene, you know, the little tags with the numbers on, none of that. No, okay, because each one of those things then is photographed and documented. No, none of that either.
So out of the abundance of caution, I decided that that was something we may want to collect.
Why did you want to collect that?
Just out of abundance of caution, DNA. I expected it to be John's DNA.
And
I expected it to be John's DNA, but what if it was perpetrator DNA as well? Okay, what if it was that?
And I wasn't going to get a second chance at it. It was either collect it or never have it.
were you making quick decisions under these circumstances?
Yes,
Did you ask somebody to get a container to put the coagulated blood in?
I ended up getting the containers.
Where did you get them from?
I got them from Lieutenant Kelleher, who lived in the neighborhood.
Did Lieutenant Kelleher ever come over to the scene?
He did not.
Did he work for the...
So Lieutenant Kelleher, who lives just across the road, so he goes to this lieutenant's house to get some stuff. Did he get crime scene stuff? Did Lieutenant Gallagher keep crime scene stuff in his house? You know, like receptacles, swabs, things like that. Did he? Let's listen.
for the Canton Police Department?
He did,
Why didn't he come over to the scene with you?
because he originally thought the scene was at 32.
Did you ask him to come over to the scene to help you?
Oh, I wish they'd not objected to that. I wanted to know what his answer would have been, because he started to say he originally thought it was 32 Fairview. So why did the lieutenant, who lives just across the road, so a neighbour of Brian Albert, why did he not come? So he's been knocked up. Why has he not come out to see if he can help? Now, obviously, he's not on duty, but neither was this guy. Gallagher, this guy wasn't on duty. He was called by Sergeant Good, and he took it upon himself to go to the scene. So why was this other lieutenant, who they knocked up for, I'm going to give you a spoiler alert here, red Solo cups. Why did he not get some pants on and come to the scene and see if he could help? Maybe they could have put their heads together and got a better understanding of this crime scene and how to preserve it so that actual crime scene people, it's not going anywhere. In the hour or 2 hours it would take crime scene people to arrive, that scene is not going anywhere. Gallagher is his boss. I know. So why has he given them, like this Gallagher is even higher than this guy. He's the one who gives them the red Solo cups to put the blood in. So it shows you that even the highest ranking officers in Canton PD do not have any understanding of crime scene investigation. All the more reason for them to leave it. Just leave it alone. Guard the scene, keep the scene secure, and insist that the crime scene people from the Massachusetts State Police, who have the expertise, who have the relevant know-how to collect relevant evidence. Because it's not just about getting the DNA from the blood. It's understanding the pattern of the blood. That's also really important, more important probably than ascertaining the DNA, or at least as important as ascertaining the DNA, is understanding the blood pattern. That could have stopped some conspiracy theories, honestly. Understanding the blood pattern. Understanding whether that blood had been dropped while John was in the air, or while John was being carried, or whether it was all coming from John's body while he was lying on the ground. Those things could have been ascertained, I'm quite sure.
No.
Did you expect him to come over to help you?
No.
Did you prefer he not?
Correct.
So when
Why? You don't want another lieutenant there? Why? Because you want to be the head guy? You want to be the most important guy there? Is that why?
you get the containers, were they plastic cups?
Yes, they were red Solo cups.
And what was the purpose of using the red Solo cups?
They were plastic. They weren't going to leak. They weren't going to get soggy. They were large. I needed a small sample. My thought was because it was frozen or coagulated, that we could collect it, transport it, and transfer it to the crime lab, who could extract the DNA however they saw best fit.
Do sometimes the crime lab test evidence and sometimes not?
Red plastic Solo cups. Do they have a lid on? No. By the time you get that blood back to Canton PD, that blood will have thawed. So you're going to have like melted snow, i.e. water, with this coagulated blood sloshing about in these open Solo cups. That's insane how contaminated that could be. That's not measurable. That's insane. That's insane. What you actually needed to do is swab the blood. Is measure the blood, photograph the blood, measure the blood, draw the blood spots, right? And then swab the blood and take the swabs for DNA analysis. You don't need to collect like bunches of snow with blood on it. You don't need to do that. You take your swab and you swab the blood. And then you put your swab in a little receptacle, put the lid on so it's secure, and put it in an evidence bag with a signature so that you've got the start of the chain of custody. Come on now.
Of course, yes.
Is that your decision?
No.
Good God.
You were telling us about the leaf blower. Does it serve to?
I'm not surprised Ed Wallace was blowing a gasket. Ed Wallace was going berserk. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Excavate the area?
It did.
Did you begin that process?
I did.
And when you did that, did you try to memorialize it?
Yes, I did.
How did you do that?
I had Sergeant Good videotape it.
Why did you have Sergeant Good memorialize your efforts to excavate the area?
I thought someone may wonder why I decided to use a leaf blower, so I wanted to demonstrate its effectiveness.
Yeah, we still wonder why you tried to use a leaf blower to demonstrate its effectiveness. Okay. All right. So don't bother photographing, just get a video of his performance, basically. He's videoing himself doing this, not to memorialize the scene. We're not interested in memorializing you. You're not important. What we're interested in is memorializing the scene. The video of you using a leaf blower is just stupid.
I'm going to move to introduce two videos that council has.
So there's no objection to these videos, right?
No objection.
No, I'm not surprised there's no objection because they're hilarious.
51.
The problem is, though, is will the jury see that? Because if the jury have no information about accurate and correct procedures used in crime scene investigation, maybe the jury won't think that anything strange is going on here. That's my concern.
Thank you. With the court's permission, can I show the jury the videos?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, can we show number one, please?
Look, there's stuff blowing. There's stuff blowing away. There's stuff blowing away. There could be hairs, there could be fibers. You're moving the position of these blood spots. It is embarrassing. You're absolutely right. It's like he's doing a bit of gardening here with his little leaf blower. Look. Look, there's stuff blowing away. Look. Surely he realizes that this is just so wrong, surely. But no, he thinks this is great. He thinks this is great police work. I know. I said that at the beginning, Patrice. I did. I said that. The defence was trying to bring in an expert about crime scene and the judge denied it. I know. Exactly. And where is the blizzard? Exactly. Now, I don't know exactly what time this was when this was taken, because it's not snowing. It's definitely not snowing. Now, earlier on at like 6 a.m., when the videos that have been played throughout the trial, you know, as Karen is outside and Jen McCabe's outside and they're running around, and then you've got the EMTs there, you've got the cops there. You could see that it was snowing. You could see it was windy. So it was bad. It was bad at 6 a.m. It was bad. But this is settled snow. It's no longer snowing. You're not seeing any accruement of snow on his boots or on his arm. So this is now settled. 7:50. All right. So by 7:50, it stopped snowing. It's definitely not snowing there, is it? Definitely not snowing. So that scene is not going anywhere. Tape it all off and get the crime scene people there and sit there in your cruiser, nice and warm, guarding the scene until they arrive. That's what you needed to do. All of that, all of these, whatever these are, blood spots and stuff, blood there, blood there, blood there, potentially there. All that photographed, it should have been drawn, measured, all charted out to get a good assessment of how that blood had actually got there.
Could you
That stuff blowing away. He had a tent with him. The problem with his own personal tent was you don't know what fibers and stuff that would introduce. You need a proper crime scene tent or coverings even. You know, using your own personal tent to cover anything is a bad idea, because you could be introducing DNA, you could be introducing fibers from your last camping trip when you and your mate went fishing and you stayed overnight doing night fishing and you had your tent up. You could have all sorts of things that could disturb or disrupt the crime scene. So no, I don't want him to use his own personal tent to cover it up. But I'm pretty sure that Canton PD would have had something like a crime scene tent. Now, maybe it's windy and we don't realise how windy it is. Maybe a tent would have worked. But that scene is not going anywhere. That ground there is not going anywhere. Even if there's still light snow going on. It's not going to, they're not going to lose anything by not doing it there and then. That's ridiculous.
Stop at the end of the video so it's a still frame? That's good right there. Sir, who's the person holding the leaf blower?
That is me.
Did the leaf blower work as you had hoped?
It was great.
It was great.
You see other
It was great. I think it is great.
footprints around that area.
Correct.
Do you know how those footprints got there?
Some of them were from first responders. Some of them were for witnesses. The ones up top by the flagpole were for when the officers put out the crime scene tape.
Did officers try to wrap the crime scene tape around the flagpole?
They did wrap it around the flagpole, yes.
I see. And from that vantage point, could you see the side and front yard?
Yes.
Did the side yard have any footprints or evidence that anything was dragged through the side yard?
No, not at all.
How about the front yard? Did the front yard have any evidence that anybody had walked across it or dragged anything across it?
It had one set of prints from Sergeant Lank.
Other than Sergeant?
Yeah, because it had snowed overnight. Like he's saying, there's 4 inches of snow. So 4 inches of snow fell between 12:30 and 6 a.m. So John O'Keefe being carried or dragged to the position that they left him in would have been covered up overnight.
Sergeant Lang's footprint across the front yard, was there any other impediment?
No, not that I saw.
I'm going to ask if we could see the second video, please, Ms. Gilmer.
Well, did you not see Jen McCabe's footprints? Jen McCabe went to the house to wake up Brian and Nicole. Did you not see her footprints? No, okay. Oh, God.
Could you stop there, please? You see the end of the leaf blower?
I do.
There's an object just below it at like 7 o'clock. Do you see that?
I do.
Did you discover something in that area?
We did.
What did you discover?
It's a cocktail glass.
Was it, did you have any damage to
It
it?
did.
Describe that for us.
It was broken on the top.
Could you continue the video, please, Ms. Gilman?
Okay, right. So we've got a cocktail glass lying at the top of 4 inches of snow. Does anybody see that there's a problem with that? Anybody? Because if John O'Keefe got out of Karen's car at 12:31, right, and he was carrying a cocktail glass, she hit him, like reversed into him, he goes flying and falls down, cracks his head on the frozen ground, and the cocktail glass shatters. Wouldn't the cocktail glass be under the 4 inches of snow? Because Ryan Nagel and Heather Maxim both testified yesterday, go and listen to their testimony, both of them testified that the snow had just started to fall, it had just started to settle, and you could still see the grass. So if what they say is true, the cocktail glass should have been at ground level under all of that snow. So is he telling me that he has beforehand, so outside of this video, before this video was shot, that he's cleared away 4 inches of snow and we're now at ground level? Is that what he's trying to tell me? Because it doesn't look like 4 inches of snow have been removed. So either he's inaccurate about the amount of snow that actually fell, and there wasn't 4 inches of snow. Maybe there were 4 inches in some places, you know, and snow drifts a little bit. But in this spot here, there wasn't 4 inches. Because if he's telling me that he's discovered a cocktail glass by using this leaf blower, then it tells me that this cocktail glass was not at ground level, if there was indeed 4 inches of snow. Something does not add up with that math.
Stop, please. There's some red spots. Is that what you identified as coagulated blood?
That is.
Below some of those spots and to the left, there's an area that's not white. It's brownish. Do you know what that is?
That's, I believe, just bare ground.
If we could finish the video, please.
Okay, so we're down to ground level. So this is bare ground. All right, so if we're at ground level, either he's done a hell of a lot of leaf blowing to clear 4 inches. Well, where is it all? It's all blown away with all the evidence. And if this is down to bare ground, where we've got bare ground and we've got the cocktail glass, well, there definitely wasn't 4 inches of snow lying on top of it, was there? Oh, I know. The timing's off. I know. I'm going to be doing a whole video about the timing. I've already done stuff about the timing to what we know so far. But yeah, Ryan Nagel, his time is off. He arrived at 12:23. But that information has not been testified to yet. We know he was there by 12:23 because he sent Julie Nagel a text at 12:23 saying he was here. Now, that wasn't testified to yesterday. And I'm surprised at that because Ryan Nagel's text that he sent to Julie is very, very important for the timeline. I'm assuming that the defense are going to introduce that in Julie Nagel's testimony because it's incredibly important to understand when Ryan Nagel was actually there. And if he was there at 12:23 and he was there for 5 minutes, then absolutely there's enough time for Karen to have left and got home or got back to John's.
Thank you. Could you have the lights on, please? Did you or any officer at your direction obtain and preserve that broken cocktail glass?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm showing you 2 photographs. The first photograph, do you recognize what's in that photograph?
I do.
What is it?
It's a after we exposed the broken, I exposed the broken glass.
Is
Oh, you actually took a photo? No.
broken glass depicted in that photograph?
It is.
Is that similar or substantially the same way it appeared to you that morning?
That's exactly how it appeared. Yes.
Do you know if that photograph was taken as a still image of the video or not?
So now he's going to say, yeah, my leaf blower idea was perfect because I did in fact expose a glass. And if I'd used a shovel, I would have broken the cocktail glass. That's what the jury is expected to take away. And you know what? I believe some of them will take that away, that they'll praise him for using the leaf blower, which exposed the cocktail glass. Some jurors will believe that. And it breaks my heart to know that the defense aren't going to be allowed to bring a witness who can testify to how a crime scene should have been investigated, how bad this was, and to really interrogate the finding of that cocktail glass.
I do not.
Second photograph, can you take a look at that?
That's a close-up of the cocktail glass.
Of the same photo?
It is. Yes.
I move these 2 photographs into the evidence, please.
Okay. Do you want it to be 52 and 52A?
Please, Your Honor.
If it's 52, 52A.
Lieutenant, what was done with that cocktail glass?
It was bagged and seized as evidence.
Was it brought anywhere that morning?
It was brought back to Canton Police Headquarters.
What happens when it gets back to Canton Police Headquarters?
It gets logged into evidence and it's assigned an evidence number. The officer types in a description of the item. In this case, it was a broken cocktail glass or broken glass. And once he hits the space bar, it automatically generates a property number for it. And I believe in this case, it was 22-18-PR, which means 22 is the year, 2022. 18 is how many pieces of evidence that the department as a whole had collected that year so far. And PR, I believe, means property room.
Why is it assigned a particular number?
Everything is assigned a number by the computer.
You said it's brought to the evidence room. Is that a separate or a special place?
So we have 2 rooms. We have a temporary evidence room, and then there's a permanent evidence room. Only 2 people have access to the permanent evidence room.
Yeah, but what we found out from trial 1 is that the 6 solo cups that are completely open with melted snow and blood sloshing around in the bottom in the Stop and Shop bag wasn't taken into evidence. It was handed over to the crime, but it wasn't taken into evidence and stored securely. It was actually put. I'm sure we're going to find out more about this under the cross-examination. Alan Jackson has already introduced a photo. Let me just show you it. Let me just get you it. Hold on. Of what this looked like, because it's insane. Absolutely insane. Hold on, where are we? Here we go. All right. Go all the way up here. Okay, so that's where we're at. Hold on, I don't actually tell you. So that's what we've just watched, the leaf blower stuff. But then the cross-examination, we get, where's the picture? It's right at the end. Huh. Where is it? That's disappointing. They definitely showed it. So there's him opening the box. There's him opening the box with the glass. Ooh, actually got tape on it. This is like an Amazon delivery. Amazon do this. They give you this massive box. You open it up and you've got this little tiny thing inside. You didn't need a big box like that, honestly. You didn't. Look at Judge Bev. She always looks like she's in a bad mood. Oh, so do we know where that glass came from? Do we know that that cocktail glass is the same type that would have been gotten from either McCarthy's or the Waterfall Bar? Or was it more consistent with glasses that maybe could be found inside 34 Fairview? And does that glass match the glass that it's not been testified to yet, but glass was found on Karen Reid's bumper, which is just absolute nuts. That was planted. But what we do know from trial one is that glass was not consistent with the glass that was in this cocktail glass, made up this cocktail glass. I don't know where this picture is, but I'll find it for tomorrow. Because tomorrow, there's going to be more cross-examination of him. So no doubt we're going to be talking about him again tomorrow. Where is this photo? Definitely showed the photo. But anyway, not to worry. I'm going to leave it there. Because I've been on an hour and a half. I'm trying to keep these to an hour really, but it was important to get through all of that. Tomorrow, I'm going to be back here around the same time on this channel to go through day 10. So we'll pick up Gallagher again. I'm going to talk about some of the cross-examination, and then whoever comes next today, anything, the most important stuff, the most hilarious stuff. I mean, it's insane that how funny this is. It's funny and tragic all at the same time. It really is. Yeah, look at those snazzy purple gloves. I know. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. Same time tomorrow. I have already posted, it's already live over on Michelle After Dark, a video about the missing siblings, 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan, who are missing from Lansdowne in Nova Scotia in Canada. They've been missing since Friday, and there's potentially some circumstances that I'm not liking the sound of. So I'm following that case very, very closely. They've been missing since Friday morning, and I've done an update video on them. I did a video just about them, being missing, short video on this channel a few days ago, but I've done a longer update video on Michelle After Dark. There's an interview with their mother. There's an interview with the stepdad on there. There's more stuff coming out now. So I'm following this each development closely. So I'll keep updating as and when is necessary upon missing Lily and Jack. It's very, very concerning case. So go and check that video out. And there's some links and stuff in the description box of that video as well that you could check out. All right. So thank you all for joining me. Thanks as always to the mods. And day 10 in about 45 minutes. So just got enough time to go and grab a snack because I got my groceries. So I got some snacks now. So that's good. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.